Web controls. In this chapter, we're going to discuss about commonly used web controls in ASP.NET. Let's start with text box, label, and button controls. Open a new project with default web form. Go to the toolbox and double-click the label control. Drag label control and place it like this. We can change the size of label control by dragging it like this. And then go to Properties window and click the text property. Change the name as user name. Click label control. And then change the text property as password. Go to the toolbox and click on text box control and drag it and place it as such. We can also get to the Properties window by pressing the F4 key. Here, we're using this text box for entering the password. So, we have to change the text mode property to password. Go to Toolbox and click Button Control. Drag it and place it here. Go to the Properties window and change the text to Log In. Now, double-click the button control. Now we are in Code window. Just add this coding and see the logic. Here we are using if construct to check the condition. First, it will check with textbox1 value and then textbox2 value. If both get true, the control will move to block 1 and execute the statement response.write. If any one of the conditions is false, the control will move to block 2 and execute the statements inside there. Here we are using JavaScript to display the message box. Move on to design mode by pressing the Shift and the F7 keys. Next, press the F5 to run the program. And now we are in execution mode. Give the correct username and password. Click the Login button and it will display Connected Successfully. Now, if you give the wrong password, it will show Invalid Username or Password. Try it on your own and check with the answer. Checkbox Control. In this lesson, we're going to discuss Checkbox Control. The checkbox control displays a checkbox that allows users to switch between a true or false state. For example, if you want to select multiple answers from a group of options, you can use checkbox control to select those answers. Now, we're going to discuss how to create a checkbox control in HTML mode. Open a new web form and click HTML mode. It will display auto-generated coding. All server controls must appear within a form tag, and the form tag must contain the run@server attribute. The run@server attribute indicates that the form should be processed on the server. Use these tags to create the checkbox control. This is the tag for creating checkbox control, and run@server indicates that we are processing this control on the server. Now then, click Design Mode. It will show a checkbox control with the caption Chené. We're going to discuss how to place the checkbox control in design mode without using tags. Go to Toolbox and double-click Text Box and Checkbox Controls. Drag it and align it on our web form. When you place the control on the form window, it will automatically generate the tags for that control in the HTML window. Go to Design Mode. Click Toolbox and double-click Button Control. Select the control, drag it, and place it below the text box control. Click the checkbox control and open a Properties window. Change the Auto Postback property to True. Now, we'll discuss about the Auto Postback property in an upcoming lesson. Then change the text property. Checkbox Control and press Control plus C and Control plus V to create copy of checkbox. Go to Toolbox and change the text property. And also change the button control text property. So double-click the button control. Now we are in Code window. Just add this coding and see the logic. Here we used nested if to check the condition. If you select both the checkboxes, the control will move to block 1 and display both values. If you select only the checkbox 1, the control will move to block 2 and display checkbox 1 value. Else the control will move to the next block and execute the statement inside it. So press F5 to run the program. Now then, we are in execution mode. Click checkbox 1 and click OK, and it will display checkbox 1 value. Click checkbox 2 and once again click OK. Now it's showing both the values. Now then, unmark the checkbox 1 and click OK, and it will display checkbox 2 value. Just try this on your own and check the answers. Note the checkbox list control is a better choice if you want to create a series of checkboxes out of data in a database. In the next lesson, we're going to talk more about web controls. Radio button and radio button list control. In this lesson, we're going to discuss radio button controls with a simple example. Radio button control is also used for selecting options like checkbox control, but only one option can be selected among the given options. Now let's see the tag for creating radio button. Radio buttons are grouped together using the group name property. We'll talk about radio buttons with this simple example. Open a new web form and go to Toolbox, click Radio Button Control. Drag it and place it on the form. Press F4 to get Property window and change the Text property and Auto Postback property. Give the name in Group Name property. Simply click the control and create a copy of control. Do the appropriate changes in Properties window. The group name should be the same as what we have given in Control 1. Go to Toolbox and click Text box. Drag it and place it on the form. Double-click the form. It will move to Code window. Now the cursor is in Page Load event. Just add this coding and see the logic. If the radio button 1 is marked, then the control will move to block 1 and display radio button 1 text value in the text box control. Otherwise, the control will move to block 2 and execute the statement within. Press F5 to run the application. Click on Male option. The text box displays the value male, and if you click Female option, the text box displays female. Alrighty, now let's see the purpose of radio button list control. The radio button list control is a single control that acts as a parent control for a collection of radio button list items. That is, within a single control, we can add more than one radio button inside it. Now let's work on an example. Go to Design Mode, click Toolbox and Radio Button List Control. Drag it and place it on the form. Press F4 to get a property window and click Item Property. It will show List Item Collection Editor. Click the Add button to add text. You can add many items using this wizard. And then click OK. You can see the radio button list control containing 3 radio buttons within it. Go to the Properties window and set Repeat Direction property as horizontal. Then change the Auto Postback property to True. We'll discuss about Auto Postback properties in the upcoming lesson. Right then, now it's time to use your logic to develop a simple program using the radio button list control. Listbox, drop-down listbox, and image button controls. In this lesson, we're going to talk about listbox, drop-down listbox, and image button controls. First off, let's start with listbox, shall we? The listbox control is used to display a list of text items from which a user can select a particular item by clicking on it. The list boxes have vertical scroll bars to allow viewing of a long list of items. We can create a listbox control by adding this code in HTML mode of web form. Here, ASP listbox is used to create listbox control, and ASP list items is used to add a list of values to the listbox control. The selection mode attribute is used to allow the user to select a single or multiple items. Drop-down listbox. Drop-down listbox is also known as combo box. It contains multiple data members, and the user can choose only one value from this control. The list is expanded only when the user clicks on the control, so it saves a lot of GUI space. We can create a drop-down listbox control by adding this code in HTML mode of web form. Here, drop-down listbox contains various items like red, blue, and green. Image control. Image control is used for displaying images on the web page. The image can change in response to the user interaction. To set the image to be displayed for this control, we will use image URL property. Now we'll talk about these controls with some examples. Open a new web form. Here we're having text box, drop-down list, list box, and image controls. Do you know how to add values into drop-down list and list box controls? Well, let's click list box control and go to the Properties window, and then click Items property. It will show us List Item Collection Editor. Click the Add button to add values to the listbox control. Now you can add many list items using this wizard. Now then, go to Selection Mode property and change it to Multiple. By using this property, we can select more than one value in list box control. Now, also change the Auto Postback property to True. We'll discuss this in an upcoming lesson. Now click Drop-Down List button and change the Auto Postback property, and add items using Items property. Click Image Control. Go to Property window and click Image URL property. It will show Select Image Wizard. By using this wizard, we can select any image which would fit for our control. Double-click the List Box control. Now we're in List Box Select Index Change Event method. Just add this coding. Here, we're going to display selected items of List Box in Text Box. Similarly, write the simple logic in drop-down list control. Press F5 to run the project. Try it on your own and check the answers. Validation controls. A validation server control is used to validate the data of an input control. If the data does not pass validation, it will display an error message to the user. Validations are classified into two different types. They are client-side validation, which can be performed using VB script or JavaScript, and server-side validation, and this can be performed using the classic ASP. The biggest problem with these languages and technologies is that you have to write lengthy code to perform a simple task. With the help of ASP.NET, we can eliminate these problems. ASP.NET provides its own built-in controls for validations. Various validation controls in ASP.NET are Require Field Validator, Compare Validator, Range Validator, Regular Expression Validator, Custom Validator, and Validation Summary. Now, these controls are combined with .NET web controls like TextBox, Drop-Down Box, and ListBox to provide validation. Now, let's start with Required Field Validator and Compare Validator. Require Field Validator. Require Field Validator is used to ensure that the user should not skip the mandatory entry in the form. For example, if a user fails to enter the required information on the form, we can display a message to force the user to fill up the required information. This can be achieved by means of Require Field Validator. Compare Validator. Compare validators are used when you need to compare two fields. For example, we can use Compare Validator to confirm password entered by the user during registration time. Let's discuss this control with an example. Open a new web form and go to the Toolbox Control. Click Label Control, drag it, and place it on the form. Press F4 to get Properties window and change the text property to Enter the Text 1. Click Label Control and press Ctrl+C and then Ctrl+V to create a copy of the label control. And then change the text property. Go to Toolbox and place the two text box controls for entering text values. Place the button control on the form and change the text property to Submit. Now then, we're going to place Require Field Validator and Compare Validator to perform the validation. Go to Toolbox and click Require Field Validator and Compare Validator. Drag it and place it like this. Click Require Field Validator and go to Properties window and change the error message to You must fill this field. Change the Control to Validate property as TextBox1. Now then, click Compare to Validate Control, and then press F4 to get Properties window. Change the error message to Text Mismatched, and change Control to Validate property to TextBox2. Change the Control to Compare property to TextBox1. It's used to compare TextBox1 value with TextBox2 value. Press F5 and you'll see the answer.